schema building, you learned how to use the apply libraries. Have you gone through that hook form? Have you seen that hook form? Anything more you have seen other than what we learned? So there will be so many other options also. So you have to explore it, right? Go through all those things, right? Because I already explained few and I left it for you to explore them. See all the features, all what they provide, how to implement them and all. So now we learned event binding and we learned about how we can manage these forms. Now while working with events and managing the forms, some technical issues will come. So we should learn how to resolve those issues. For example, you have a form and in this form there is a submit button which have to submit data to server, form data to server. We have a submit button. Now what is the point is user clicked this 2 times immediately, then it will post immediately 2 times. So it will post 2 times immediately. If you have given validation like required and other things, usually it will verify and stop because you haven't entered. Suppose first time you click submit, then what happens? It posted again, data is cleaned, again you click submit, again posted. If validation is not mentioned, then they will immediately execute. Accidentally or intentionally, user may hit a button several times, and once user clicks the button, every time the action is going to fire up. But if already an action is fired up and it is happening, second time when user clicks, it should not fire up. So it should wait, it should tell the user that already something is in process. So the point here is any task that you performed, any event that you have defined, any function you have called will execute immediately. Within a fraction of few seconds, it will execute. How you cancel? So that means how you will cancel. So you by mistake trigger an action, you need to cancel it. But the nature of application with events, once the trigger fires, you can't control it. It's not under your control anymore. But we can make it happen. How? By using different concepts. I hope you know we can handle important question asked in interviews is what is debounce? In JavaScript, everybody learns about this debounce, na? So you have learned about the concept of debouncing. What is debouncing and why we need debouncing? So in JavaScript, that's a basic point, right? Why? Because actually we are not using typewriters. We are using keyboards. Keyboard don't type. So keyboards usually key in, they don't type, because generally if anybody says I am typing on my laptop, that's a wrong term, because keyboards don't type, keyboards key in. For example, what happens, you have a remote control with volume up and down for a TV or something. You pressed this volume up and you released a little slow, some delay happened. Then what happens? It will go directly from 1 to 100, because the execution of tasks will be so fast that you can't catch them. Down arrow, it will come 100 to 0 immediately. So what is the problem with keyboards? User can hold down the key, then they repeat it. Typewriters are not like that. When user hold down a key, it will execute only once. Again, user have to press. But keyboards are not like that. In keyboard what happens? I hold down a character, some D, then it will repeat the D. If I by mistake released it little slow, then it will repeat 5-10 times. That is the problem. Now how programmers will control this speed? Do you know, to control this speed of the characters in your operating system, there is a settings. You have keyboard delay settings in your control panel. You can go to the keyboard and you can adjust the delay settings. So that means in your Windows control panel, you will find keyboard related settings. Where is keyboard? Keyboard settings. In the keyboard settings, you see repeat delay. If the repeat delay is long, repeat delay and repeat rate, two are there. Repeat delay is long, then what happens? After typing the first one, to type the second one, it will take time. First one immediately type, second one immediately will not type. It will take some time. Repeat rate, repeat of every character will take some time. Repeat delay, animation delay, right? CSS you have learned animation duration, animation delay. You know the difference. Animation delay means what? The start time, it will delay. It will keep the task waiting for some time in the memory, even you fired it, so that it allows the other task to finish. If you give all tasks one after another to process, it cannot manage. We have to delay. That is what we have to do. Generally, large scale applications use a concept of multi-threading. In that, they have thread sleep mechanism. Thread sleep mechanism, what it will do is, it will make the task means delay by certain duration, and it will not do immediate. Usually, this is very important, because when you trigger any action one after another, if all are performed immediately, user cannot experience or processor cannot manage. We have to delay that. So debouncing is the mechanism of keeping the task inactive for a specific duration of time, after loading into memory and release it into process after the time interval that will allow the previous task to perform. That's what the concept of debounce. So the point about debounce is it is the process of making any task inactive for a specific duration of time and release into process after specified time interval. So how you can control this? So you can control by using timer events, set timeout, clear timeout. So we can manage by using set timeout and clear timeout. You can use set interval and clear interval. So how do we control these events? How do we manage and control these events? We'll see. So controlling these events actually can be done by using the various event triggers, right? Let's put one process here just to make it understandable. I will show you the process. For example, I will keep it here, a new component. So that is debounce demo. So debounce demo.jsx. Okay, here I'm just configuring a function debounce demo, and we will define a simple syntactical buttons we will keep there. So I'm just using some button. Yeah, this is having a button for and button class bi and bi chevron down. So and btn and btn primary, suppose btn dark or something, and we have a chevron up. So we have chevron down and we have chevron up. Like this we have. And let's keep this debounce in the startup. Now you have these buttons like this, and we have like margin E2 or 3. Okay. Now what should happen when I click on this? It should increment the volume. Just we will put some message, suppose. Means increase, decrease, incrementation, decrementation, you can write, right? So you put count values and all and define increment and decrement. I will do first this, I will give you for practice, you try. I will do one thing, this I will give as BI play. Okay, that's, and this is BI pause. Okay. So now what happens is when I click on this, I want some actions to perform. Later we will create some complex example also. First, we are configuring a state constant MSG, set MSG is equal to use state, and it is a string. We have three functions. Function message1 here. So this will set message as hello, like this. And we have another function message2, and the set MSG as some how are you. Okay, and another function MSG3, set message is welcome to React events. Okay, so these are three functions which are displaying different messages into a reference. That reference we will print here. So that means here we will put class margin top. Okay, here we want to put the reference. That means we will put some span class H2 or H3. And here MSG, whatever message it is having. Now on play click, we will write a function play click. On play click, we need to call those three functions: message1, message2, and message3. Three functions are called. On play click, that is on click, we have play click. We are calling those three messages. So now see what happens here. I click on play. It is showing third message. What about first and second? They executed. But why I cannot see them? They printed also. But your eye cannot catch the speed. They printed all three messages. Only the point you can't see. You may be thinking like they overwritten. They are not overwritten. First message printed, later second message overwritten, third message overwritten. Means they are not overwritten statically, they overwritten dynamically. They haven't overwritten compile time, they overwritten runtime. Then why I cannot see them? Because their execution is so fast that you cannot catch the speed. Then how we can control them? Then these messages are immediately executed. That means what happens in the concept is you have usually three tasks to perform, like task 1, task 2, and task 3. These three tasks actually they are first loaded into memory. They are first loaded into memory. Usually we have memory. Into this memory, these three tasks are loaded. From after that, they are released into process. That means we have a process. They are released into the process. That means what actually happens, these three tasks are first loaded into, these three tasks are first loaded into memory. And after that, they are immediately released into process. At a time, they are released into process. The speed of execution is so fast that task 1, task 2, task 3, all three executed. You cannot see it happening. All three are executed. But if a task is performed in so much fast, then it may lead to certain technical issues in later stages. If there are many processes running, you see, people, they want to open something on their PC, they double click, it is loading, they don't wait, they double click again. You will see that it is loading, they will 10 times double click. That is the nature of user. That means he can't wait, but it is processing, but he will hit double click, double click, double click, and 10 times it will open. This is what we are controlling now. That means even he clicks so many times, we will not release into the process. That means now what happens? We loaded three tasks into memory. After loading three tasks into memory, from this, first task is released into process. It is released into process. When it is released into process, we make task 2 and task 3 wait in memory for some duration. We lock them so that first task will go, it will execute. After that, it will come out of the process. When it come out of the process, now we will release the second task into memory. And you know, in JavaScript you learned what is difference between timeout and interval. Timeout is going to remove it from the memory and release into process. Interval will keep in the memory and release a clone into process, duplicate. That means it will repeat again and again. But interval will repeat again and again. But timeout will repeat only once, execute only once. That's what difference you know in timeout and interval. So now what is the point here? How you will delay this? Then what we will do is we will give these three tasks to set time out. Set timeout. Set timeout. You know how to use set timeout. Function name. Function name is message1. And interval. How much interval? Some 3000 milliseconds. Similarly, we have message 2, message 3. Message 2, I will release after 6000 milliseconds. And message 3, I will release after 10,000 milliseconds. So all will load into memory at a time. But after 3 seconds, first task, after 6 seconds, next task. That means the time gap between first and second is 3 seconds, not 6 seconds, because all are loaded at a time into memory. First one is released at 3, second one is released at 6, third one will be released at 10. So now I'll run this and see here. We will refresh and you click on the play button. Now we can see this happening. First, hello. After that, how are you? After that, welcome to React. This happened earlier also. Only the point we can't see. This happened earlier also. Because the time interval, if you reduce this to 300, 600 and 1000, right? If you reduce that, then see, when I refresh, I click on that, then it will be like this. And if I reduce that even to 0, now you will never see it. You will see that last one is there, because the execution so fast that you can't catch. But they are executing. That means all the tasks are executing. We are scheduling them and we are configuring. Now, how we can cancel any task from memory? We need to cancel any task from the memory. That means we loaded into memory, but before it is released into process, we want to delete from memory. If it is released into process, it will execute. But before it is released, we want to cancel it. Then we have another option. What is it? Clear timeout. Clear timeout. Now the point is here, 3 tasks are loaded into memory. These 3 are loaded into memory. What is the memory reference of message 2? In which memory message 2 is loaded? There is no reference. If there is no reference, how you will cancel it? All are loaded into memory, but there is no reference for them. Actually, in general process, people use a variable, store the data in that variable. That means usually in general, what people do, they will declare a variable. In the variable, they can store this one. That means now first task is in which memory? A. So that they can cancel that A. That means these are loaded into memory. In memory, which location we don't. But the problem with using a variable like A is, why you are using this A? To maintain a task in memory. Is this A having anything to show render on screen? It doesn't have anything to show render on screen. Its job is to maintain a task in memory. Then a variable is not good, because a variable can be rendered in the UI. In React, they have introduced some new concept. The concept in such a way that you can store something in memory and it is not accessible to UI. You can maintain it internally. If I declare a variable, accidentally it may be accessible. That means the intention is to maintain some values in memory and use for memory, not to provide for rendering. So React has introduced some new thing, and that they call it as use reference hook. We have an use reference hook. What is use state? It maintains a value, but that value is meant for binding with UI. That means accidentally, intentionally, it can be binded with UI. But we want to maintain some value which is not for binding with the UI. It is just for maintaining in the process. State, you can use state also. If you put a state, to access the state, memory takes more time. But if you allocate for memory in the way of memory, which it understands, then it is faster. So using earlier, so before React 18, we were using variables only. We don't have that. This use reference is a new hook introduced into React 18 to maintain values which are not meant for rendering, which are internally used for memory. Internally used for memory to maintain threads, to maintain tasks. So we use this use reference, right? Remember, React 18 developed so many new things which are not for developers, which are not for developers. They are used behind the scenes to improve the performance of React. That means in a React website, they will tell you that in React 18, we introduced concurrent execution. We have introduced concurrent execution. People who don't know properly about the concept, they come and ask, sir, will you show one example on concurrent execution? What you are talking about? First read there. What is concurrent execution? Concurrent execution means in the processor, it will maintain two allocations where it will run two tasks simultaneously at the same time so that it will save the time and make it fast. That means how anybody can show you processor? Seriously? Many people don't know all these things. They say that, so React 18 new features came now. So one example, they want heading, the concurrent feature, then one program. Some people do that. That means they are misguiding you, bluffing you. Because it's not a feature that to be implemented by you, it is a feature developed for the performance of React. You can't show it. How you can show processor? Right? The point, such so many features they have introduced. And officially React says these are not for, it is not a feature. React says. React community says this is not a feature. Many people are telling it as a feature. This is not a feature. It is a performance type of functionality we designed to make React better. But what people do is, because they have to tell something about new version, then they will say that this is new feature of React. Right? In almost all website. So when you search for what you search, you see React 18 features. When you search for React 18 features, so you can see they will show you these options. So concurrent rendering engine improves the performance and responsiveness. Right? That means what? You will show a rendering engine. Rendering engine is a browser engine. We learned browser architecture in the beginning, right? That means they have improved some functionality for that engine, right? That means they haven't introduced anything for you that is improving the performance. Like that, majority are for the performance, which are for uses we will use them. So use reference is used to store process, some some threads, some memory related tasks, so that they are not used in rendering, they are just used in the process. How? Let's do that. So don't use variables now. Actually, in your JavaScript, you are doing it. Huh? You are using that. Now you have a new hook. We will create a let, and we will use something like flag. Okay. Any name you can give. And it uses use reference hook. Use reference hook. And this use reference hook actually expecting a value to handle in the memory dynamically. Now tell me, what should be the data type of any reference which is expecting a value at the runtime? Null. If it is expecting a value at compile time and that value is not provided, what it will return? Undefined. You know JavaScript. What is undefined, what is null, you learn. So undefined means at compile time and a value is expected and it is not supplied. At runtime something is expected and it is not supplied, then it is null. So the default is null. The default is null. It is important to mention that the reference is dynamic and it is null. It is not having anything. Okay. Now what is the purpose of this? To maintain a thread. In that thread, to maintain some tasks which are in the behind scenes actually. For example, see now, I open calculator. Now in the calculator, I am doing some tasks. 10 plus 20. Enter. 10 plus 20 equal to 30. How many tasks currently calculator is running? More than 15 tasks. 12, 15 tasks it is running. What do you think? 10 plus 20 only it is running. It is having a lot of tasks behind the scenes to manage everything. And if you want to see that, let's open task manager. In our task manager, let's go to the details category. Details. We will go to the details category. In the details category, what it is? Calculator. This is calculator task app. And the calculator app, 25 threads it is running. 22 threads it is running now. These are not standard. Dynamically they will be changing. You see on screen two values only. That means for you, three variables. One to store A, another to store B, another to store C result. But behind the scenes, so much is happening. This is all required for a calculator. Otherwise, it cannot maintain memory, it cannot maintain the operators. That means you may think like only three values are required, but in the background, it requires so many. Now, where these are all stored in a reference which is not rendered to you, that is what actually the concept of use reference. The concept of use reference. So, use reference is going to maintain a thread. In that thread, you can store some data, and you can use it for the memory and processor. So now what we will do is, into this flag, we will store the second task. So you can store the second task so that I can able to cancel it anytime. If you want, you have to create 3 references for 3. Every reference is individual, every thread is independent, every thread can handle only one task. It can handle only one task, you cannot have. So that is why multi-threading. If 3 tasks you need to maintain, you need 3 threads. You know, people use Node.js. Node.js is single threaded. And other all technologies, Java, .NET, PHP, everything, they are multi-threaded. And I think, if you are a learner of those technologies, they are avoiding multi-threading and they are using now parallel programming. That's the new concept they are implementing instead of multi-threading, because using lot of threads is burden for app. That means now we will maintain a thread. How? Flag dot current, that is to allocate a current thread, and into that we will store this value. That means this is going to configure a thread which is a reference object, and see its current thread. By default it is null. Later, into that thread, into the current thread, current is used to access the current thread. Into the current thread, it is going to load this function. It is in the memory, right? Okay. Now what we will do is, we will write a function. So pause click. On pause click, we can cancel only that. Others we can't cancel, because others we don't have in memory. Others we don't have in memory, means they are in memory but we don't have a reference. They are released into memory but you can't catch them because there is nothing reference for them. We can catch only the second one, right? Okay, then what we will do is clear interval, clear timeout, not interval, clear timeout, because you loaded with a timeout. Clear timeout, which one? Which thread to timeout? Which thread you want to remove from memory, right? You can remove the threads from the memory. Kill process option will be there. That means if any task you loaded and it is not responding, you can kill the task. No? Control Alt Delete, right click on task manager option, end task. You can kill the task if task is taking long time and you don't want. That's what we are doing now. That means clear timeout. Which one? So which one? Flag dot what? Current. That's it. That means in that, whatever the thread allocated where the function is running, that will be cleaned up. That means it will clean this memory, clean that memory. So actually, when you learned your JavaScript, you done all this through variable. Even now we can do with the variable. Even we can use a state. But state is not a good idea. That is the reason now in the latest version they provide an option called use reference hook. Okay, now I will handle this on the button click. So here we have to define on click. On click, what it is? Pause click. On pause click, it is going to cancel only the second one only when you click it. Otherwise, it will release into process. A thread is going to load into memory and it is not going to be deleted until or unless you delete it. Right? Now let's run this and see. Refresh and click on play. Then I'm not clicking pause. It is executing this. Hello, how are you is running. So you run this now. How much time is not there? How much time we given? This is fast. We given 10,000. Na? That is the reason it released first. Right? Okay. Now let's run this. Now I click on play. It will get the first one. After that, it will get the second one. After that, it will get the third one. So your reference is not doing anything. It is just holding that task. But let's refresh. Click play. And you click this pause. And when I click the pause, the second one is removed from memory. Then directly the third one will come. There is no second message. Why? Because we cleaned up from the memory. And you should clean from the memory before it is released. After releasing, you click, it doesn't work. Right? That means you need to click that. So here I click the button, then it started, and I click this button, then it will erase the second one from memory, and directly it will get the third. If I am not doing that, I am not clicking pause, then the first one will execute, then the second one will execute, and the third one will execute. So that is how we can manage the value. So here we are using a new one. What is it? Use reference. So you have to write down here a simple syntax for this. Set timeout actually uses a function and it uses interval. And clear timeout, it uses the reference. Reference. So here we have a use reference hook. It is a new hook introduced into React 18 and higher versions. So it creates a memory reference which is used internally by the process and not for rendering in UI. It creates a memory reference which is used internally by the process and not for rendering in UI. So technically, it can manage your threads in process. It can manage your threads in process. Better we say manage application threads. Application threads in process. So it is a reference used dynamically. Hence, the default value is null. You can put any another value. Default is null. You can put 1, 2, 3 or anything, a number, a boolean. You can store anything. Dynamically. The default is null. Now, usually here, how you configure that? activity, some task is equal to use ref, and default in that is null. So task dot current is equal to, so some task, and this task is like a function or something, right? So you can access the task from reference memory using current property. You can access by using that current property. So a syntax like task dot current is equal to set timeout. So we have a function and interval, and we have clear timeout and task dot what current like this. So example, suppose we have dbounce demo.jsx. Now this is the timeout, and we have so many such hooks are there which are not really for managing your data. They are really for managing the process. They are for managing the performance of the application. Later you will see other hooks also. You have seen use effect. Similar to use effect, there is another one which will do the same thing. But what is, these are all asked in interviews. In interviews, they ask like, what is the drawback of use effect? Is there any another alternative for use effect? Can I have to maintain the loading, mounting functionality only on use effect? No, there is another called use memo. Use memo. We'll discuss them later. We will discuss hooks concept. We can create our own hook also, just like use state, use reference, use effect. We can create custom hooks also. We'll have a separate topic on that. Already we are learning hooks in different situations. So finally, that one list I will give what are important hooks available. So what is the purpose of this is to maintain some thread in the memory and clean up whenever required, right? So this is timeout. What I am talking about here, I am talking about it is not meant for, it is not meant for rendering. Am I saying that it will not render? Am I saying that it will not render? I am not saying that it will not render. It will render, but it is not meant for rendering. This English you should know, because some people don't understand proper English. Right? Immediately come up with doubts as if they invented something like, sir, use reference, I am rendering, it is working. Right? So you should be little bit careful in this. I am not saying it will not render. I am not saying it is not meant for rendering. Not meant for rendering. Yeah? It is just like some silly people ask the question like, sir, I am rendering, it is working. Who said it will not render? Who said it is not rendered? It is not meant for rendering. Right? It is not meant for rendering. That you concentrate on those words, right? That means it is not meant for rendering. There are so many things which are not meant for specific, but they can be used. It is not recommended. Computer programming, it is not recommended. Right? Basics, right? No need to go in detail. Suppose anybody is writing an if condition. An if condition is written like this. And we write statement on what? True. Now some people will write an if condition like this. If condition and directly true. Right? That means without a block. And if you are a programmer, this is not recommended, as per programming standards, programming rules. This is not recommended. And you say that I am using it. That's your problem. You are using it. That's your problem. Right? That is not recommended. Do you know programming standards? As per the programming standards, we cannot use like this. But many people use. Suppose you are learning some database. Select star from table. Am I right? Do you know in real time it is not recommended to use star? Not recommended to use star. But everybody who learns database, he will start his career with star. He will run his career with star, end his career with star. He will live with star. But in real time, it is not recommended to use stars. It will delay the process. What is star? It is a search pattern for all. Why you are searching? Time waste you are doing. Why you are searching? Means you are giving extra job of searching to the compiling system. You may say that 100 fields are there. 100 fields are there, right? Write 100 fields. 500 fields, 500 fields, right there. But never use stars. These are all programming rules, basics. Right? Programming standards. What are the programming standards here? PMD, Sonar, am I right? These are the programming standards, code analyzers. In real world projects, people use these code analyzers. And the code analyzers will show you about, rule reference. Java rules, HTML rules, all rules. Various programming rules are there. Now in the rule reference, for example, any rule reference, best practices, I go to code styles. So you see here, so where is it? Control. Somewhere other rules we will give it. There are so many things. Let's go to the simple JavaScript rules, best practices and code styles. You can see here These are JavaScript rules. And see here, what is the point when they give you some rules about the rule reference, and you can see they say that suppose you are writing a loop or a condition, so this is okay and this is bad. That means a curly brace is good. Without that also it will work if conditions and all work.
अब नया
Who
वो
says
क्या
this is
बोलते हैं
bad? People who invented that language.
AMPSC
Now I
नागपुर
don't know who are you who invented your own shortcuts and using them in the application development, delaying its process, wasting its time. Right? Many people bring them as shortcuts. They will tell that, do you know you can write like this shortcut? That's not shortcut, that's nonsense. Because that is not recommended. That will delay the process. You are that compiler don't want your shortcuts. Compiler need to understand correctly. So we are not saying reference will not render. We are saying reference is not meant for render. That's the basic thing, sense, right? So you can render the values, but it is not meant for rendering the values, to maintain the reference and use them. Now we will see other options, how we can use this interval. You have seen just timeout. We will see how interval works with some examples that we'll see next session.
5 मिनट में ही खत्म हो
In
जाएगा
next session, we will finish this. Now we will go into another major part, that is working with the various types of event handling hooks related, properties related in components, hooks and properties, that we will see in next session. Monday we will do that. Already we learned few hooks, some more additional are there, you have to learn. That we will finish on Monday session. Okay, Monday will continue.